Inner clarity is more powerful than outer knowledge. This may sound strange in a world that worships information, degrees, and intellectual accumulation. But just pause for a moment and look around. We are the most informed generation in history, yet are we the most joyful, balanced, or victorious generation? Clearly, knowledge alone is not enough. Something is missing, and that missing element is inner clarity. What do we mean by inner clarity? It is not simply about having peace of mind, though that is a consequence of it. Inner clarity means the ability to see life as it is, not as it is distorted through your fears, ambitions, emotions, and borrowed beliefs. Most people are not living, they are simply reacting to life. They are constantly in conflict, torn between what they want and what they fear, between what society expects and what their soul craves. In such a state, how can there be victory? Victory in life is not about defeating someone else. It is not about having more money, more followers, or more awards. True victory is the ability to move through life with a sense of grace, awareness, and purpose. This begins only when your perception is clean, not cluttered by confusion, not clouded by opinions, and not corrupted by unconscious desires. Inner clarity gives you the power to see what truly matters, to focus your energy in the right direction, and to act without hesitation or doubt. In school, we are taught what to think, not how to see. We memorize facts, we learn to repeat what others have discovered, but no one teaches us how to sit silently and look inward. No one teaches us how to ask the right questions, not to a teacher, but to life itself. This is where real wisdom comes from. Outer knowledge can give you a career. Inner clarity gives you a life. When you are clear within, decisions become simple. It doesn't mean they are easy, but they become simple. You don't sit for hours wondering what others will think. You don't live to fulfill someone else's idea of success. You act because your inner compass is strong. That compass is not swayed by temporary emotions or social noise. It is steady because it comes from direct perception, not second-hand knowledge. Think of a river. If the water is muddy, you can't see the bottom. If your mind is constantly agitated, you cannot see the truth of any situation. Inner clarity is like letting that mud settle. It is not something you acquire by reading more or listening to more. It comes by observing, by being conscious, by cultivating stillness within yourself. From this stillness, clarity arises, and from clarity, the right action flows. One of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming that complexity equals intelligence. But often the most intelligent person is the one who sees the simplest truth. When you have clarity, you do not need to convince others or argue endlessly. Your presence carries a certain strength because you are not pulled in 1,000 directions. You know what you stand for, you know who you are, and that knowing is not based on ego but on deep perception. Life constantly throws situations at us, some pleasant, some unpleasant. If you lack clarity, every small issue becomes a crisis. You swing from joy to despair, from motivation to burnout. But if you are clear, your inner state remains stable. You respond rather than react. This is not a passive way of living. It is the most powerful way to live, because it puts you in charge, not your circumstances. We must understand that outer knowledge is limited. It is always about something, about math, about history, about physics, but inner clarity is boundless. It is not about something, it is about the way you experience everything. That is why two people can go through the same situation. One collapses in stress while the other emerges wiser and stronger. The difference is not in the event, but in the inner clarity. In the absence of clarity, people seek control. They try to manipulate life, control others, chase security. But no amount of outer control can compensate for inner chaos. Only clarity can bring a sense of true empowerment. It makes you capable of handling life with intensity, but without being entangled. You can fully engage with life, but you don't get lost in it. Discipline is freedom, not restriction. This is one of the most misunderstood ideas in the modern world. The word discipline often triggers discomfort, especially in a society that celebrates instant gratification, quick results, and effortless success. People associate discipline with limitation, control, and lack of spontaneity. But if you look deeply, true discipline is not about suppression. It is about choosing consciously. And conscious choice is the very essence of freedom. Let's take a simple example. If you wake up every day at a random time, eat whatever your tongue demands, do whatever feels good in the moment, and avoid everything that feels uncomfortable, this may feel like freedom at first, but over time it becomes a trap. Your health suffers, your energy dips, your focus scatters. What felt like freedom now becomes a prison of your own habits. On the other hand, if you set a rhythm for your body, a pattern for your actions, and a purpose behind your choices, you begin to feel lighter, more stable, more powerful. That is real freedom. Discipline is not about forcing yourself into a rigid mold. It is about aligning your actions with your highest intention. It means you don't allow every passing emotion to dictate your direction. It means you are not a slave to your moods, cravings, or impulses. In this sense, discipline is not a punishment. It is self-respect. It is saying to yourself, I value my life enough to guide it with awareness, not drift through it unconsciously. In schools, we are often taught discipline as obedience. Sit still, follow rules, don't question too much. But that is not discipline. That is conditioning. Real discipline has nothing to do with being controlled by someone else. It is an inner strength, a commitment to what truly matters to you. It means you can do what needs to be done, even when it is not convenient. It means you don't wait to feel like it. You act because it aligns with who you want to become. Without discipline, potential remains unused. A seed contains the possibility of a forest, but only if it follows a certain discipline of growth. Similarly, every human being carries immense potential, but without the fire of discipline, that potential remains scattered. You may have dreams, ideas, and goals, but unless you consistently act towards them, they remain fantasies. Discipline turns vision into reality. It transforms possibility into power. Some people fear that discipline will kill creativity, but creativity does not thrive in chaos. It flourishes within structure. A musician who wants to improvise must first master the basics. A dancer who wishes to express freely must first train the body. Without discipline, creativity becomes random. With discipline, it becomes random, impactful, and powerful. The greatest artists, athletes, entrepreneurs all understand this. They repeat certain actions daily, not because they are forced, but because they know freedom is born from mastery, and mastery is born from discipline. Look at nature. The sun rises and sets with precision. The planets move in disciplined orbits. The seasons come and go in rhythm. It is this discipline that sustains life. If the sun decided to sleep in for a few hours, there would be chaos. If gravity decided to take a break, everything would collapse. Life functions because there is order. In the same way, when you bring a certain discipline into your life, not out of rigidity, but out of understanding, you begin to function with a new level of stability and strength. Many people associate discipline with motivation. They think they need to feel inspired in order to act. But discipline is what keeps you going when motivation fades. Motivation is like a spark. It lights the fire, but discipline is the wood that keeps it burning. It is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, steady, and powerful. Every day you show up, even in small ways, you are feeding the fire of your own transformation. When you live with discipline, you gain control over the direction of your life. You are no longer a victim of distractions or outer influences. You move with intention. You speak with purpose. You act with clarity. This creates a deep inner confidence. You begin to trust yourself because you know you will follow through. This trust is the foundation of true self-esteem. It is not based on what others think of you, but on what you know about yourself through your own experience. Discipline also brings a certain lightness to life. At first it may feel demanding, but over time it removes friction. You don't waste energy on indecision or regret. You don't carry the burden of missed opportunities. Instead, you move forward with ease because your path is clear. Comparison kills uniqueness. Victory is personal. Every individual is a unique expression of life with a different rhythm, a different fingerprint, a different fragrance. Yet from a very young age, we are taught to measure our worth against others. Whether it is marks in school, salary in a job, the size of a house, or the number of followers online, the habit of comparison begins early and often never ends. It becomes a silent background noise that constantly tells us we are either not enough or only better if we are ahead of someone else. But life does not blossom in comparison. A rose does not try to become a lotus, and a mango tree never competes with a coconut tree. They simply grow fully and joyfully into their own nature. Human beings, however, have forgotten this simplicity. We look sideways so much that we lose the ability to look inward. We trade our authenticity for approval, our uniqueness for validation, and in the process, we dilute the very essence that makes victory meaningful. Victory is not a universal trophy to be claimed by outpacing everyone else. Victory is deeply personal. It is about aligning with your own nature, your own path, and your own growth. What is a victory for one person may mean nothing to another. For someone, victory may be speaking in public for the first time. For another, it may be choosing silence when anger arises. These victories may not make headlines, but they transform lives from within. Comparison, on the other hand, creates a false measure. It places your self-worth on a scale built by others. If someone runs faster, earns more, looks better, speaks louder, you begin to feel behind. But behind what? Ahead of whom? The race you're running was never yours to begin with, and the more you run in someone else's race, the more exhausted and empty you become, because deep down, the soul knows when it is betraying its own path. The tragedy is that the world keeps rewarding comparison. It glorifies the top 10, the number one, the best of the best. But rarely does it honor the quiet victory of a person who simply chose to heal, to rise from trauma, to keep going when no one was watching. These are not public victories, but they are real. They are not broadcasted, but they are deeply felt. And unless you recognize these personal victories, you will always feel like you are losing, even when you are growing. When you live in comparison, your focus is always outward. Your energy leaks into judgment, jealousy, anxiety, and insecurity. But when you return to your own journey, your own timeline, something beautiful begins to happen. You start to notice your own progress. You begin to honor your own effort. You no longer seek validation from people who don't understand your story. You become rooted in your own experience, and that is where true strength comes from. Every individual has a different karmic imprint, a different set of experiences, tendencies, and lessons to unfold. To compare that with another person's journey is not just unfair, it is foolish. It's like comparing a sunrise with a thunderstorm. Both are needed, both are powerful, both have their own time, their own beauty, their own role in the vast play of life. When you realize this, the need to compare begins to dissolve. Even success, as the world defines it, becomes hollow if it is achieved through imitation. You can wear the clothes, speak the words, follow the path of someone you admire, but if it is not rooted in your own authenticity, it will never bring fulfillment. True victory comes when you are able to live your life in such a way that it reflects your deepest truth. That truth may not look impressive to others, but it will feel deeply aligned to you. The moment you stop comparing, you reclaim your power. You are no longer trying to prove something. You are simply expressing who you are. This is the soil in which creativity blossoms. This is the state in which confidence becomes natural, not forced. Because confidence is not the belief that you are better than others. It is the clarity that you don't need to be. You are enough just as you are. And your only task is to live that truth as fully as you can. The victory mindset begins when you shift from competition to contribution. When you stop asking, how do I measure up, and start asking, how can I grow, how can I give? That shift may seem small, but it changes everything. Suddenly, life becomes less about winning over others and more about winning over the limitations within yourself. Your mind is your first battlefield. Before anything happens in the outer world, before you succeed, before you fail, before you speak, act, or create, everything begins in the mind. It is the silent arena where thoughts rise, battles are fought, and decisions are made. Most people try to change their lives by rearranging the outside, but if the inner space is not in order, nothing on the outside can sustain. A person may have every opportunity, every talent, every advantage, but if their mind is filled with doubt, fear, and confusion, even the best circumstances will feel like a burden. The mind can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. It is not just a tool. It is the lens through which you experience reality. If that lens is dirty, everything looks distorted. If that lens is clean, you see clearly. Every choice you make, every belief you hold, every emotion you feel, it is all shaped by how your mind perceives the world. That is why the true path to victory in life begins with mastering the inner realm. No amount of outer success can compensate for a chaotic mind, and no external failure can defeat someone whose inner space is clear, calm, and focused. Most people are not even aware of the battle happening in their mind. They wake up and instantly start scrolling, comparing, worrying, planning, regretting. The mind pulls them in 1,000 directions, each thought demanding attention, each emotion seeking validation. There is no silence, no stillness, only noise. And in that noise, people lose their sense of direction. They become reactive, impulsive, driven not by conscious choice, but by unconscious pattern. In such a state, even small challenges feel overwhelming, and the mind becomes a prison rather than a place of power. Victory begins when you become aware of your thoughts, when you watch them without getting entangled in them. You start to see how many of your ideas are not even yours. They are inherited from society, family, media. You begin to notice how often your mind is occupied with fear of the future or guilt about the past. Very rarely is it fully present, and presence is power. Presence allows you to act with precision instead of reaction. It gives you the ability to respond to life intelligently instead of emotionally. Your mind is a tool, but most people have become tools of their mind. The tool is meant to serve you, not rule you. But when you identify completely with your thoughts, you become a puppet of your own mental patterns. You believe every fear as if it's the truth. You chase every desire as if it's your purpose. You resist every discomfort as if it's danger. In this state, the mind is not a battlefield. It is already lost territory. Reclaiming it requires awareness, discipline, and stillness. Not by fighting the mind, but by understanding it. The mind feeds on repetition. Whatever you feed it consistently becomes its default. If you constantly think negative thoughts, your mind becomes trained to see what's wrong. If you train it with gratitude, clarity, and focus, it begins to filter life through those qualities. This is not magic. This is how neuroplasticity works. The pathways you use often become stronger, and those you ignore become weaker. So the question is, what thoughts are you rehearsing every day? What inner dialogue are you reinforcing? The thoughts you think are the seeds you plant. The emotions you dwell in are the water you pour. Over time, they grow into habits, beliefs, and ultimately into your reality. This is why two people can face the same situation and have entirely different experiences. One sees opportunity, the other sees defeat. One sees growth, the other sees pain. The difference lies not in the event, but in the state of the mind interpreting it. Even in the face of failure, a strong mind remains centered. It learns, adapts, and keeps moving. A weak mind collapses not because the failure is unbearable, but because it magnifies the failure, identifies with it, and becomes paralyzed by it. The ability to detach from your thoughts and see them as passing clouds is one of the most powerful disciplines you can cultivate. It gives you the space to choose your response instead of being hijacked by old mental programs. In this battlefield of the mind, silence is your sword, awareness is your armor, and focus is your shield. When you create inner space, you begin to hear the deeper voice within you, not the voice of fear or ego, but the voice of clarity. That voice does not shout, it does not argue, it simply knows. But to hear it, the noise must quiet down. Comfort zones are silent killers of potential. They don't shout, they don't scream, they don't alarm you when you're stuck. They wrap around you quietly, offering ease, familiarity, and the illusion of safety. And before you even realize it, weeks turn into months, and months into years, while your deeper dreams sit in the shadows, ignored and untouched. Comfort is seductive because it promises relief from fear, risk, and uncertainty. But what it really steals is growth, strength, and depth of experience. The human system is designed for expansion. Just like muscles grow when pushed, the mind sharpens when challenged, and the spirit deepens when it walks unfamiliar terrain. But when you keep doing only what you've always done, you deny yourself that natural process. The same job, the same routine, the same conversations, the same reactions. Over time, they don't just maintain your life, they shrink it. What was once a safe place becomes a cage. Comfort zones are not defined by geography or lifestyle. They are defined by what you avoid. For one person, stepping out might mean speaking in public. For another, it could mean walking away from a toxic relationship. For someone else, it may be finally committing to a discipline, a practice, or a goal. The specifics vary, but the essence is the same. Staying comfortable keeps you from becoming who you are capable of being. That gap between who you are and who you could be is filled with discomfort, and that discomfort is the price of transformation. Most people wait for life to push them. They wait for crisis, for failure, for dissatisfaction to become unbearable. Only then do they take a step beyond their comfort zone. But wisdom means moving before pain forces you. It means sensing the stagnation early, feeling the numbness creep in, and deciding not to settle. It takes courage, because the mind will always offer excuses. It will say, "Not now, I'm not ready, what if I fail?" The mind wants to protect you, but in doing so, it also limits you. True growth does not happen inside the known. It happens when you feel uncertain, when you face resistance, when things don't go as planned. That's when the real version of you is forged. Without that fire, without that friction, you remain the same. And there is no shame in being where you are. only in staying there when you know something greater is calling. That calling doesn't come with guarantees. It comes with a whisper, a nudge, a persistent inner tug that tells you there's more to life than this. When you stay in your comfort zone too long, even success begins to feel stale because you're not stretching anymore. You're repeating, and repetition without growth becomes dullness. You can perform well, even be admired, but inside you know you're not expanding. That knowing creates a subtle restlessness, a dissatisfaction that no amount of outer achievement can silence. Deep down, you crave something real, an edge, a challenge, a path that asks more of you than what's convenient. Every meaningful breakthrough in your life will come from stepping beyond comfort. Whether it's learning a new skill, changing a habit, speaking your truth, or taking a risk in the direction of your dreams, these moments always involve uncertainty. But uncertainty is not your enemy. It is the territory of possibility. It means you are entering a space where life can surprise you, where you can discover new aspects of yourself, where the old limits no longer define what's possible. The beauty of discomfort is that it wakes you up. It brings your awareness into the present moment. When you're doing something slightly beyond your edge, you're fully alive. You're alert, engaged, and connected to what's real. That is where transformation happens. That is where confidence is built, not by staying safe, but by realizing that you can handle more than you thought. Each time you stretch, you grow. Each time you face fear and act anyway, you reclaim a part of your power. Comfort zones give you the illusion of control, but true power comes when you learn to thrive in the unknown, when you can act without the need for complete certainty, when you can show up even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. That's when you begin to embody real courage, not the absence of fear, but the refusal to be ruled by it. Courage becomes your compass, not comfort. And the truth is, everything you want, growth, fulfillment, victory, purpose, it all lives just beyond what's familiar. Not across an ocean, not in another lifetime, but just on the other side of your current pattern. It's close, but it demands a step. Success without inner clarity is a hollow victory. It can be dressed in gold, praised by crowds, framed in photos, and still feel empty at its core. In the world today, success is often defined by external benchmarks: wealth, fame, status, influence. And yet, how many people reach the top of their game only to find themselves battling anxiety, loneliness, and a deep sense of dissatisfaction? The truth is, when success is not rooted in clarity, clarity of purpose, clarity of values, clarity of self, it loses its meaning. It becomes noise instead of fulfillment. Clarity is the inner compass that gives direction to your actions. Without it, even the most intense effort can become scattered. You may run fast, but in the wrong direction. You may achieve results, but they may not bring peace. Clarity means you know why you're doing what you're doing. It's not about being certain of every step, but about being grounded in your intention. It's that calm center within you that helps you navigate the chaos outside. When people chase success blindly, they often inherit dreams from others, a parent's expectations, society's definition of achievement, a celebrity's lifestyle. All these can become invisible forces shaping decisions. But clarity asks a different question. What is truly meaningful to you? What aligns with your truth, not just your ambition? Without asking these questions, you may spend your entire life climbing a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. Inner clarity is not something you stumble upon accidentally. It is cultivated through introspection, silence, and honesty. You have to be willing to face yourself without filters, to look at your motives, your fears, your attachments. It requires peeling back the layers of conditioning to arrive at the essence of what moves you. This can be uncomfortable because it may reveal that some of your goals were never truly yours. But it is also liberating because once you see clearly, you stop running in circles. Clarity brings power, not because it adds something to you, but because it removes the unnecessary. It simplifies your choices. It strengthens your decisions. It reduces the inner conflict that drains so much of your energy. When you are clear, you can say no without guilt and yes without doubt. You don't need constant external validation because your actions are aligned with your inner knowing. That alignment creates integrity, and integrity creates peace. In a world full of noise and distraction, clarity is rare. Most people are reacting to news, to opinions, to pressures. But clarity allows you to respond instead of react. It gives you the space to choose wisely, to move consciously. It's like standing on solid ground while others are swept by the current. It doesn't mean you're perfect or immune to confusion, but it means you have a center to return to when things get chaotic. When success comes from clarity, it carries a different quality. It's not just about achievement, it's about fulfillment. You feel connected to your work, not enslaved by it. You find meaning in the process, not just in the outcome. You enjoy the journey, not just endure it for the sake of a goal. And even when challenges arise, they don't shake you to the core because you know why you're on the path you've chosen. Clarity also makes you more adaptable. When you are clear about your purpose, you can be flexible with your plans. You don't get attached to one way of doing things. You are not derailed by failure or inflated by success. You see both as part of the unfolding. This brings a sense of ease, even in the midst of effort. It allows you to move forward without the constant pressure of proving something. You are no longer chasing a destination, you are living your direction. The most inspiring people are not just successful, they are clear. Their words have weight, not because they are loud, but because they come from alignment. Their actions inspire not because they are dramatic, but because they are true. Clarity creates presence. It allows you to show up fully, without masks. It brings authenticity, which is one of the most magnetic qualities a person can have. In your journey to victory, do not just aim to succeed, aim to understand why that success matters to you. Sit in silence, ask the difficult questions, listen beyond the noise. If your inner world is cloudy, no outer success will bring lasting joy.